Hello everybody and welcome back, and I thought I would take a look at the evil party, which has been mentioned several times, but this is the first time I've tried to put a face and some stats to them. I spent some time rolling up these characters and randomly choosing some magical equipment for them. I enjoy doing that, so that was time well spent. Some of the equipment came from the treasure that I randomly rolled up for this little dungeon here. I thought the treasure that I rolled up there was too good for the size and level of the dungeon, so I kept some of that back. And I think it's appropriate that I give some of it to this evil party. If they get vanquished, then that treasure becomes the party's. What I did was I rolled up a series of stats, and then I assigned a class to the most suitable stats. I actually rolled up 8 characters, and 2 of them were so bad I ditched 2 of them and chose the best 6. And the first one obviously fitted an elf. Then we had a magic user, a thief, a fighter. I had to roll up 3 fighters because they were coming up with a strength of 6 and things like that. This fighter did have to do that stat swap thing where his strength was 11 and his intelligence and wisdom were both 2 higher. Cleric and a dwarf. Then I randomly rolled for what level they should be, and I used a 1d4 plus 3. 3 of them ended up at level 7. We've got 2 level 4s and a level 5. That's fairly balanced. However, the level 7 elf and the magic user both have level 4 spells. Then I rolled up for their hit points and took into account their constitution. For the spells, I again rolled those from the spell tables in the expert book, and you can use a 1d12. After I made their spell choices, figured what ones would they actually memorize, and obviously you're going to choose 2 magic missiles rather than magic missile and read magic. Some of the others came out quite random and some were actually quite good. We've got Detect Evil and ESP for the elf. Again, ESP might come in handy considering the amount of mind control which has been a theme of this adventure. Then there's Haste and Fly, and then for level 4 there's Wall of Fire, which seems really good. For the magic user, there's Shield, Hold Portal and Magic Missile ×2. Hold Portal, which we don't use, is apparently a good spell if you want to lock a door if you are being chased. Invisibility and Web, 2 classics. Lightning Bolt and Water Breathing. Okay, maybe there was a plan for that later. Dimension Door for a level 4 spell. Now that could be quite good, as that allows you to teleport somebody, such as a fighter, into the midst of a group of people. The cleric will have memorized 2 Cure Light Wounds and Hold Person. There are 5 sets of armor. The elf, I actually gave the armor from the temple adventure, and that was a really good chainmail +2 and shield +3, so her armor class, including her dex bonus, is -3. The mage doesn't have any armor. And then I rolled up 4 random sets of magic armor from the magic treasure table in the expert book here. And after I rolled them, I assigned them to the most suited character. The thief did the best with leather armor +2. The fighter just got chainmail +1. The cleric got chainmail +1 and a shield +1. And the dwarf got a shield +2. So he is wearing standard plate mail. Then I rolled up for a random weapon if I thought they should get one. And we have a 2-handed sword +1 for the fighter. Both the cleric and the dwarf got +2 weapons. The thief got a short sword +1, which we had those years ago. I then rolled up to see if they had any weapons skill training, and that's a 70% chance, and all of them succeeded in that, so they have +2 to hit and damage. And then I rolled for some random items, a random ring, a random potion, and a random miscellaneous item each. I didn't give anything to the elf because I think her character is almost overpowered. The thief got a ring of fire resistance. We have 2 of those and they proved very useful. A rope of climbing, we have 1 of those, don't know what we would do with 2 of them. And then a potion of delusion, which is a fake potion which does nothing, but this thief is convinced it's a potion of gaseous form. For the fighter, he got a ring of delusion, which he thinks is a ring of protection +1. That's cursed and he won't be convinced otherwise. And a potion of longevity, which de-ages your character by 10 years, and that might end up being quite comic if one of the younger people in the party drink it. For the cleric, he also got a ring of delusion, right, which is again cursed. He thinks it does spell turning and he won't be convinced otherwise. I have a potion of gaseous form and some elven boots, which even though he cannot sneak, look pretty snazzy, so he's wearing them. For the dwarf, he actually got a ring of spell storing and the mage got a ring of water walking, so it was obvious to swap those. And he's got a potion of ASP and a helm of reading. The interesting thing about a helm of reading is the wearer can read any language. However, we're told in the description that the helm is extremely fragile and should the wearer die, the helm will crumble. So there are several items here which are cursed, there's some which are useless, and if the party get hold of them, well, they're going to have a time sorting out which ones they want, and some of them probably will wear the cursed rings. As well as the chainmail +2 and the shield +3, the most remarkable piece of treasure is the ring of spell storing, the description of which does its best to not be ambiguous, but it still is ambiguous. I'll quickly read it out. When found, this ring has 1d6 spells stored within it. I rolled a 1d6 and it came up with 4. Those exact spells are the limit of the ring's powers and cannot be changed, so I rolled 1d4 to see what level the spells were, and then I rolled from the tables again to see what those spells were, and I got a mirror image for level 2, hold person for level 3, and then 2 level 4 spells, mass morph and confusion. When the ring is put on, the wearer magically knows what spells are stored and how to use them. Right, that would also mean that the wearer could then write those spells into their spell book, and I think they're going to have to, because after a spell is used, it may be replaced by a spellcaster who must cast the replacement spell directly at the ring. So for example, nobody in my party know mass morph, so if that spell is used up from the ring, then say Malin will have to cast mass morph back into the ring, but he could only do that if he knew mass morph, if it was in his spell book. So I'm guessing that if you put the ring on and you know what spells are there and how to use them, then they automatically go into your book so you can recharge the ring. Though it does say it may be replaced by a spellcaster, this also suggests that it doesn't have to be worn by a mage, and that's just occurred to me. This ring could be worn by a fighter. The ring will not absorb spells thrown at the wearer. The spells in the ring have the duration, range and effect equal to the lowest level needed to cast them, which for level 4 spells is a level 7 magic user. The DM should select the type of spells in the ring. About 20% of these rings contain clerical spells. Okay, so on rereading this, yes, it has just become apparent to me that you don't need to be a magic user to wear the ring, so I could have kept the ring on the dwarf, though he would be reliant on the magic user to recharge the ring after it had been used. But again, the question I'm having is, if a magic user does wear the ring, does that mean they automatically get to write those spells into the book because they know the spells? So with all of that out of the way, let's get on with the adventure. After yesterday's botched attempts at sneaking, I'll give Archie another roll. He's proved quite good with his bow and arrow, but sneaking is not his forte. Let's see, he's going to rendezvous with Carrick in the forges. He has been back and forth a couple of times to relay a few messages, but he's here to collect the moles. Yes, and with a 35, he picks them up and he's able to sneak back again. Barton has cast silence on Archie, so not only is he stealthing, but he is utterly inaudible. The silence will move with him. And this is actually where one of several flaws in the plan is revealed, because as Archie approaches the workshops here, these are a noisy place, and Carrick and Gareth Ironhand and several other prisoners are working away, and then all of a sudden the noise in the workshop stops, and it is shockingly noticeable. Carrick, after a second, realises what's going on, and so he grabs the moles and rushes to the door and hands them to Archie quickly. Gareth, with a great presence of mind, throws himself onto the floor. Archie is shooed away quickly and the noise of the workshop resumes. The skank, who is on guard, walks towards the forge to see why the work stopped, because the noise stopped, and he sees everybody standing around Gareth Ironhand. They pick him up, dust him off, and get back to work, and that seems to satisfy the skank, who goes about his way. Archie has to go in through here. People have been observing where has the jailer with the keys gone, and he's gone in through this door, so that's where Archie will go. Also, a message does get relayed back to the crew who are here in this second passageway. Prisoners do get taken down there and they never come back. Of course, the crew know this because they have rescued Mossy and Easton. However, it just occurred to them, what if more prisoners are taken down there? And the message from the party is there will be a signal from this forge to this corner here that if any skanks are coming with more prisoners, then Carrick will lift a red hot metal brand and wave it at the back of this forge, and that's the signal for the crew to go back into the passageway and up into the side passage that is the rubbish pit, and to just stay there. They aren't to draw attention to themselves at all, and it's good that this was mentioned because Kane is likely just to barge in there. So Archie with the moles has gone back into here. It kind of looks like this. Most of the skanks are in the training ground training, the rest are upstairs in their barracks. This area is largely empty. There's lots of weapons here which have just been forged. That's good to note. There's a second door here. There doesn't seem to be any keys, so he's going to have to sneak in and try another room. Let's see how he gets on. Right, with an 8 roll, he's very successful. There are a couple of skanks milling about here, generally trying to organise things, and the keys happen to be in this room here on a desk. I'm going to say that's a very good sneak roll. So he is able to press the keys into these molds, which have been made from bits of wood from the beds and a mixture of dust and bone glue, which has created kind of clay. Of course, as Archie handles the keys, it's all done under the silence spell. With the keys pressed into the molds, he's able to put the keys back and sneak out again. With another 35. It was 35 before, wasn't it? Now that's good. This area, it's half gloomy, half lit by torches, so his hide in shadows for level 6 is 35 anyway. He doesn't need the benefit of the gloom. As opposed to yesterday's fiasco, Archie manages to get the moles out of this building, and he comes back with a bit of information that there are stairs up. There are weapons and armour here, which might come in handy, but there was no sign of the party's treasure. So he's back out here, and with at least 3 good sneak rolls in a row, I'm going to say that little adventure was successful, and the key molds are given to Carrick and Gareth Ironhand, and they immediately stash them under a bench, and anytime they smelt some metal, they siphon off some and pour it into a mold, and by the end of the day, they have at least 5 sets of keys, so that part of the plan is going well. Of course, all the prisoners, including the party, have been coming up with their own ideas of what would make a good escape. Remember, most of the prisoners aren't really in the loop as to even the existence of the Copru, never mind the existential threat they pose to the known world with their ability to take people over. So a lot of ideas the prisoners come off with are rather prisoner-centric and not very helpful to the party completing their quest. One idea that's put about is that a phantasmal force is created of a dragon, and while that flies overhead, all the prisoners just run and go down the stairs this way. I have to write stairs down. Right. That won't work because if any of the 100 skanks simply shoot the phantasmal force, that will pop the illusion, and very soon the skanks will give chase, so the prisoners will only have about a 10-minute start and it's curtains for them. The other thing is they all sneak away in the middle of the night. Well, every so often there is a patrol that checks on the prison with a guard that just walks up and down here. So it wouldn't take long for the prisoners to be discovered, and even if there is a way to cover up the escape, they would only have half a day at most ahead of the skanks, who would then pursue them out of the cave system and into the jungle. And in what way would that help the party? The only thing the party could do would go a different way and hopefully be able to collect their stuff and then continue on up the stair up to the top of the plateau to face off the Kopru. A version of that plan will be used, but it will be more elaborate. Ultimately, the party wanted to get rid of the Kopru, and it's discussed that this operation has only been in place for, well, the oldest prisoner has only been here for about 3 months, and the skanks, well, they're a sort of bizarre creature that's been bred by the Kopru, and nobody knows how old the Kopru are. So if the Kopru are thousands of years old, this entire operation is just a blink in the eye. Even if the skanks are killed, it could quickly be set up again. This whole thing needs to be destroyed. Because if anything goes wrong, it won't take long for the Kopru to realise that given the history of the party, the fact that they destroyed Pirate Island, the fact that the Kopru can't detect when one of their hive minds has been killed, they're going to get the idea that the party are after them. They might even in some way find a way to seal off the staircase to stop them ever being discovered. So all in all, the ultimate aim is to get the prisoners out of here, get the party on the other side to the stair upward, get their equipment back, destroy this entire operation, and continue on up the stair. And well, at some point they're going to have to face off this evil party, and they don't want to be caught off guard with that evil party overlooking it all. So there is a plan in place. Keys have been got, messages have been relayed to the crew, and it's time to wait for the next parade day to put that plan into action. Here is a list of all the other preparations that are going on in secret. The two dwarves, Carrick and Gareth Ironhand, part of the plan is they will need 2 very strong iron rods about 3 feet long. They have to smuggle those into the prison barracks, but they themselves are only about just over, 4 feet tall. The only person who can really smuggle these rods is Big Tibor, whose legs are long enough that he can stash them strapped inside his trouser legs. Luckily, Tibor visits the forges a lot because he is grinding up the mined rock so it can go into the smelter. A large iron rod is not something that is rare in the forges. There's a lot of these things lying around. There's a lot of use for them. So it is quite easy to give Tibor at least one over the next 2 days. He pulls his trousers down, it gets strapped onto his leg, and at the end of the day, he walks back rather stiff-legged to the prison, and there it's offloaded. They will need some slings. A sling is an easy thing to make, and it's also easy to roll up and stash. So over the next 2 days, at least 10 slings are made. Liz needs to practice tying knots. Out of the 100 prisoners, several of them are sailors, and they help her to learn how to tie good knots. This is a crucial part of the plan. She needs to know this. Unfortunately, as expected, 2 more prisoners are taken away out of the prison over the bridge behind the skanks barracks and into the second entrance where the crew are hiding. A signal is sent to them that they are coming, so the crew do hide in the rubbish pit. Archie keeps watch to see this lot pass by. 2 prisoners are being escorted by 2 skanks, just like Mossy and Easton were. When the skanks come back again, the crew go to the swamp area where there were skanks being created inside these bubbles, and there they find the 2 prisoners tied up, ready to be someone's first meal. They untie them and rescue them. The central part of the plan involves most of the party, except Sylvia and Carrick. As soon as the skanks leave their barracks for the parade, this is not a showing off parade, this is a drill session where all the skanks go through some combat maneuvers and stand to attention, stand at ease, present arms. All of this was instigated by the evil party to try and get some kind of military standard in this lot. So while that is going on, Donard, Malin, Tibor, Maradin, and then 3 of the prisoners who were themselves once adventurers. That includes Ferdy, who is a level 5 fighter, Katrina, who is a level 6 fighter, and Jalen, who is a level 4 thief. That is a total of 7 people under the guise of 10-foot invisibility and silence. They are going to make their way over to the barracks to try and get everybody's stuff back. This presents them with a problem. They will have to move in unison, so nobody leaves the 10-foot radius of the invisibility, which if Malin casts on himself, he will be the centre, and also nobody can leave the silence area, which Donard will be casting upon himself. So they have to learn how to move in formation and not lose track of each other. They practice that moving up and down this corridor here. Half of the prisoners are looking on, absorbed at this, and half of them are looking on, confused and unhappy because it looks ridiculous. They have to move up and down the hall in formation, finding different ways to hold on to each other and not walk into each other. Moreover, when they get to the bridge, they're going to have to get into a tight formation, something like this, where they are in a long line, where they have to move in a tight formation over the bridge, and they practice that, and it does look ridiculous as they march backwards and forwards in this tight formation. And after they have done that on the second evening, they do it again, but this time with their eyes closed because they won't be able to see each other. And sure enough, with their eyes closed, several problems are highlighted and they have to iron those out. At the mealtime at the end of the day, Carrick reports back that Archie did get the moulds and he did return with them, and they do mention the problem about the silence that fell over the forge as Archie approached. Everybody is relieved that they got away with it, but they have to acknowledge some unforeseen things will happen. And Malin realises there is an unforeseen event. How can you cast both silence and invisibility over an area? If Donard casts silence, Malin cannot cast the spell within that silence, so he has to be outside it. If he is outside it, then the invisibility 10-foot radius will have to happen around him, but not Donard. So with the rule that the silence area can be cast on someone and it can move with that person, but the rule for the invisibility, if it is cast on a person or a thing, anybody moving outside of that area becomes visible but not invisible again. So to work out around this one, Donard is going to have to cast silence 15-foot radius upon himself. Malin, from a distance, is going to have to cast invisibility as a one-off spell on Donard. Then he's going to have to cast invisibility 10-foot radius on everybody else around him. And the invisible Donard is going to have to move into the group, so they're both silenced and invisible. And that means the second invisibility spell, which they had hoped to use on Liz, has to be used on Donard. That means they have to add Liz to this group here. Okay. People are rehearsing, equipment is being made and smuggled. And that evening, the prisoners are chained to their beds by the guards, meaning that tomorrow there will be no work because it is a parade day. It is time to put the plan into action. Nighttime comes, everybody is locked to their beds, they are left, and the prisoners will not be monitored. However, throughout the night, there will be at least one skank who will patrol up and down this corridor. And lastly, in the morning, another skank will come in, dump a load of food into the kitchen, and leave again. So by the time the parade is over, the prisoners will be unlocked and then they can set about making food. And immediately in this first room, everybody starts to release themselves. They are given one of these continual light pebbles as their light source. They hide it carefully and sneak out, hugging the edges of the walls and the rocks, and make their way down the stairs. And the rendezvous point is the cave exit at the base of the plateau, so they keep running all the way down the stairs, all the way through the mines, all the way through the cave systems and out. That is a long journey. There won't be a patrol for at least a couple of hours, so that gives Sylvia and Roan is the other mage who was an adventurer. Both of them have phantasmal force, and this is where they will have to use it. Sylvia will station herself about here, where she can see into both of these rooms, and she will press herself against the wall. And as soon as it's time for the skank to patrol, she casts up a phantasmal force, which probably has a radius of just about here, but that is enough to create the illusion that these rooms are still filled with sleeping prisoners. And it is also enough to cover her and make this look like a blank wall. The skank walks up, has a look around, and as expected, just looks into the doorways and walks back again, and he seems pleased. There won't be another patrol for another 2 hours, so the same thing happens in this room. The prisoners unlock themselves, take their light pebble, and sneak out as quietly as they can along the edges and down the stairs. Another 2 hours pass, and Sylvia is standing there concentrating the whole time. This is quite an imposition on her, but she has that sort of elven presence of mind that doesn't really need sleep, so she is doing this difficult shift. 2 hours pass, the skank comes back, walks up the hallway here, walks back again, and is satisfied that everybody is still chained to their beds. Again, there won't be another patrol for another 2 hours, so it's time for this room of prisoners to leave. And they do the same thing. They take their light pebble and quickly and quietly hug the shadows and go down the endless stair to the jungle. This means that Roan will have to do his job with his phantasmal force, so he is going to stand against the wall here between some of the benches in the mess area, and he is going to do the same thing. He's got to stand there for about 4 hours until the last patrol appears. And sure enough, 2 hours later, another skank comes up, walks back again, goes back to his original place, and that skank sees these rooms are still filled with prisoners asleep, but they are empty. When he is gone, this fourth room gets up and sneaks out, but before they do, they give all their bedding to this room here. There will be no phantasmal force, so it's going to have to be that age-old stunt where you put bedding under the blankets to make it look like people are sleeping. It's the only thing that can be done, and they've got 2 hours to try and arrange it, which is plenty of time. So the fourth set of prisoners have scurried away and they have escaped. This last room here contains the party, it contains all the adventurers, and it also contains several volunteers who have stashed a continual light pebble in their pocket, and they each have a sling, and there are 10 of them. So the morning comes, the next skank appears with a sack of food which he carries up to the kitchen, dumps on the floor and leaves again. And he gives a cursory glance into each of these rooms, and he sees all the prisoners in each of these rooms, and the party and all the rescue volunteers are still in this room, and he leaves. Sylvia has been standing there the whole night. She finally breathes a sigh of relief and can relax and runs back into here. Roan, who's been holding his illusion for just over 4 hours, he also breathes a sigh of relief and goes back into that room. It is time to wait for all the skanks to join the parade where they will begin their day of drill, and the next part of the plan will be put into place. The next stage of the plan is enacted. Sylvia, Gareth Ironhand and Carrick move to here, just underneath this rock face where Liz has diligently been hammering in spikes for the past few days. Those go all the way to the top. Carrick and Gareth have the iron rods that Tibor smuggled for them. Sylvia has nothing but her invisibility spell ready to go, and she also has a haste spell, a magic missile and a sleep. Malin has a shield, mirror image, invisibility 10-foot radius and fireball, so they are gathered here. Everybody else, we've got Liz, Malin, Donard, Tibor, Maridin, and then 3 of the adventurers, Ferdy, Katrina and Jalen. They all gather in this formation and get ready for some spells. Donard casts Silence 15-foot radius upon himself. and he stands to one side. This enables Malin to cast invisibility, which does have a range, and he casts that on Donard outside of the silence radius. Then everybody gathers around Malin and he casts invisibility 10-foot radius, so everybody around him is invisible. The invisible silent Donard joins that group of people. Liz, by the way, has been swathed in all the ropes that the prisoners have been making secretly from scraps of materials. So when she was made invisible, those became invisible with her. And as they have practiced, they move in formation, invisible and silent, out of the prison. Along here, they practice that narrow formation as they step sideways over the narrow bridge, go around here and then into the barracks. There is a whole army of skanks here who didn't see anything and didn't hear anything. And from here, the evil party have finished their breakfast and they are making their way to keep an eye on everything. Gathered here, however, are 10 prisoners with slings and with continual light stones. This is not sealed, by the way. This has no roof. Remember, we are indoors. And they are looking up here for their signal. They have been told that it probably will take about half an hour for anything to happen. Don't expect anything to happen quickly. So that group of people are here. They enter into here and find it empty. They have been told by Archie not to expect anything, but to remain invisible. They still have to stay in formation. Here, there's some weapons and armour. Most of the armoury is empty because the skanks have taken everything into the parade ground. There are a couple of weapons, mostly ranged weapons, as the drill will be a demo of melee combat. They go upstairs and there is a second layout much like this one. This is filled with the bunk houses where the skanks sleep. And there's also one skank who has set himself up as chief. Nobody outside of his own ego knows this, but he is the skank that has broken free of the Kopru control. His presence has not been missed on the parade ground because the exact number of skanks constantly fluctuates as some of them die and others are born. But when the party were captured, he immediately saw the value of their treasure and he took control of the situation and realised that this treasure, both for his own personal use and as a bribe, could kickstart his campaign to lead this army. So he kept it for himself. And today is the day that he is going to make his move. When the invisible party go upstairs, they see him standing in front of a big table, trying on bits of jewellery that was part of the treasure to try and make himself look impressive. He's looking at a coronet that he wants to put on his head as well. Unbeknownst to him, since he cannot see or hear the party, from behind his back, a rather fine-looking warhammer lifts itself off a table, floats across the room, raises itself high above his head, and with one strong, full-force strike, cracks him on the back of the skull, and he drops down dead. Right, Donard has become visible. That attack broke his invisibility. And there are several tables and chests with all the party's stuff on it. Right, if they gather up the stuff won't be invisible, so it will be seen to float about the place. Remember, they can operate and still remain invisible. Invisibility is broken when you attack or cast a spell. They're going to have to gather everything up, bring it down to here, get ready for everybody to run. In fact, Donard is going to put everything on. He might as well. The other adventurers, Jalen, Katrina and Ferdy, each grab a missile weapon. Tibor has no skills with ranged weapons, but Maradin is actually quite good with a longbow, so he will grab those. Those weapons will appear to float by themselves, including any arrows or crossbow bolts. But there is a chance for a surprise attack. That's that part of the plan done. We have to move on to the next part. The invisible Liz is given the 2 invisibility potions, which are themselves visible. However, a potion vial is only about 3 to 4 inches long and not particularly bright coloured, so she is going to stuff those 1 each into her shoes. They will be seen to move across the ground by themselves. The odds of anybody in this gloomy area who is not even looking in this direction seeing 2 small shapes move across the ground is quite limited. If they do see them from a distance, they might think it's two mice scurrying along. But I will give Liz a hide in shadows check anyway. Despite the fact she's invisible, can she also hide these two potion vials? And she gets an 11, so yes, even though nobody would have really noticed them, she succeeds in sneaking the potion vials back up to here, to where Sylvia, Gareth Ironhand and Carrick are standing. Sylvia casts invisibility upon herself. Gareth and Carrick have the iron rods attached to their backs. They can hear each other. There's no silence in this area. So Liz starts climbing this wall, and at every spike that she has hammered in, thanks to her knot tying lessons, she ties a piece of rope and it drops. The rope becomes visible, but they have chosen a piece of rock which is angled away from line of sight. So she drops a piece of rope. They give her some time to get to about here, and then under their own invisibility, the other three climb up. They make it to the top of the dam. And at this point, Sylvia and Liz have been told to run. Just run up here. And their rendezvous point is off to the side at the bottom of the stairs, and they have done more than their part. It's up to the two dwarves to bust this dam. They have talked about what will happen when the dam is broken, and the lava flow is not that strong. It's enough to feed a small stream. But there is a massive pool of lava filled with potential energy that will bust out and immediately engulf this place. And after this lake of lava has been drained, it will subside back into a stream. It will probably also trickle into the rubbish pit through the hole. So it's important that anybody who is fleeing down the second crack goes quickly. They have a few minutes to get past that. The crew, including Mossy and Easton, and the rest of the adventuring party, who will not be going down the stairs, will have to make their way through this crack quite quickly. That is what is going to happen. Liz and Sylvia flee onward. They whisper their goodbyes and their good lucks to the two dwarves, and they get in return a "see ya later, lassie, don't worry about us." And then the two dwarves start to get to work on what they have identified as the weak point. Again, nobody is looking in this area, and these two dwarves, including their iron rods, are invisible, so if anybody does notice it, it's going to look like the dam is collapsing by itself. In fact, I might give the evil party, who are watching the parade and half the time they are bored and they talk amongst themselves, I might give them a roll of 20%, and if they get 20% they can see the dam moving. They don't, that's a 48. This is also the cue for the 10 prisoners here who have got light gems to gather on this corner here. They can see the keystone rock starting to move, and as soon as it begins to fall, they have a job to do. Malin also has a job to do, as do the archers here. Right, everybody looks on to the top of the dam. They see this main boulder moving, and all of a sudden it goes from moving to falling. From here, as soon as the first rock falls, these slingers take out their light pebbles. That causes a massive area of brightness, which distracts everybody's attention from the dam to this direction. Gareth Ironhand and Carrick run as the whole dam crumbles beneath their feet as they flee. They throw the light pebbles into an area here, which temporarily blinds all the skanks here and gets everybody's attention. The evil party are looking at this. These prisoners run. While the skanks are being disrupted by the sudden bright lights being hurled their way, from behind there is an almighty splosh as the keystone falls into the lava stream. The pent-up force of the lake spews forth and sprays outward, raining lava drops over the area. The rest of the dam is shoved outward and the whole lake gushes downward, engulfing the area. The skanks are wiped out with one unified cry of terror. At the same time as this rock is falling, Malin, who is invisible, is going to cast Fireball at the evil party. And he does 66 Please, Malin, make it a good one. We're all counting on you. Yes, I'm more than pleased with that. Oh, nice one. 3 6s in there. Right, that's 18, 24, 27 points of damage. Right, the evil party each get a saving throw versus spells. The elf is level 7. She just needs a 7. She gets a 4. Yes! So she takes, oh my god, what did I say? 23 points of damage. She is down to 10 hit points. The magic user is level 7. She needs a 13 because of a wisdom penalty. She makes it, so she takes 12 points of damage. She's down to 23. The thief is level 5. He needs a 13. He fails. He's wiped out. Fighter needs a 12. He fails. He's down to 5 hit points. The cleric is level 4. He needs a 14. He makes it. He's down to 1 hit point. The dwarf needs a 9. He fails and he's wiped out. Okay. So we had some success and some saves there, but 2 of the evil party have been wiped out, right? Okay, it's time for the rest of the party to step into action. Let's see if they get surprise on a roll of 1 or 2. And if the evil party also gets surprise, then it's mutual. There is no surprise. Movement first. Everyone runs. They're not going to wait for a return fireball. Missiles, there are none. Spells. The elf throws up a wall of fire to shield herself. The magic user, as the party flees, a lightning bolt zaps off the ground at Malin's heels, scorching it and ricochets away. Liz and Sylvia can see the evil party flee into their fortress and slam the door. And this is where we say goodbye to Tibor and Maridin, the 2 heroes that were found in the prison underneath the Black Eagle Barony when the party were trying to rescue the Eye of Traldor. When that adventure was over, they parted company with the words, "Someday we might meet again," and sure enough, we found them on Pirate Island. This farewell was planned last night, so most of the emotional handshaking has already been done, and it was decided that their skills would be far better used helping to rescue the prisoners and get them safely back somewhere. That somewhere will be the village of Tanaroa, which has been largely burnt, but it will form the basis of a settlement, and that settlement will survive until these people can be rescued from the island. There is also a second ship which brought the evil party. That ship will need to be overcome, those sailors will need to be subdued, and that ship can also act as a rescue ship. So Tibor and Maridin have a lot of work to do leading the other half of this rescue. Because of the speed which things are happening, as I've said, the farewells were done last night, so this is a very quick handshake and a slap on the shoulder, and off Tibor and Maridin go. And this is when Malin realises yet another unforeseen part of their plan. What about Gareth Ironhand? He is at the top of this cliff, at the base of these stairs. Where's he going to go? And of course everybody forgot that. So it looks like Gareth Ironhand is going to have to tag along with the party for the final adventure at the top of the plateau. The lava has flowed everywhere. The prison is engulfed. The barracks is engulfed. It starts to trickle down the rubbish pit into the crack below. The party flee up the stairs. Everybody else flees down the second passageway. And that is the rescue over. Okay, it's done. What will happen? Well, the lava will engulf this area, then it will subside. So when the party come back again, it will have reduced itself to a stream. What path that stream will take, nobody knows. But this bridge will have itself been engulfed, and all of this will have hardened into black stone when the lava cools. Hopefully there will be a path back again for the party when they have finished with their business, but that is this session over with, and I will leave it there for today. Okay, see you all next time.